السلام عليكم. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Now we'll have our afternoon session with Dr. Sana Nada Al-Aqil. She is a pharmacist, a clinical pharmacist at King Fahad Medical City. Dr. Nada, she completed her bachelor degree from King Saud University. Then she got her master degree from Minnesota University. Then she completed her residency in King Khalid University Hospital at Riyadh. Please join me welcoming Dr. Nada.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I would like to thank the organization committee for inviting me for this gathering. Today I will be giving a talk about research ethics. As we know, as a professional people, we are always working with ethics, and this is more important when we are dealing with research. So ethics in general is known as the norms of conduct that distinguish between the acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. Ethics is the way of understanding and examining what is right and what is wrong. When we are speaking about ethics in research, here we are including values and principles that need to be included, and the approvals and from regulatory committees that is included in this process. The main objective of research ethics is to protect the human being participating in this research, is ensure that the research is conducted in a way that serves the interest of individuals, groups, and society as a whole. It needs to examine specific research activities and projects for their ethical sound protection of confidentiality, and the process of informed consent has to be included within this process of research. The first code of ethics has been developed in the Nuremberg, known as the Nuremberg Code. It has been conducted on the basis of the Nazi criminal acts on the prisoners that happened during that period. And as a result of this court and condemnment of those researchers, the first code of ethics has been developed in 1947. Following that, many conferences and many discussions has been done, and this proceeded with the Declaration of Helsinki in 1964. And this has been updated regularly, and finally in 1979, the Permanent Report has been developed, and this is what we are working on, and has been amended many times. The last amendment was in 2002. The Universal Declaration of Bioethics and Human Rights by the UNESCO in 2005 has also distinguished the main code of ethics and conduct while utilizing research. Again, when we are working in our hospital and dealing with patients in Saudi Arabia, one of the important issues that has been placed in order وهو نظام مزاولة المهن المادة 27. أي خطأ صحي صادر من ممارس صحي ممكن يترتب عليه معاقبة، ومن هذه الإجراءات كانت الأبحاث العلمية وإعطاء دواء للمريض على سبيل الاختبار من دون الرجوع إلى موافقة أو تدابير وقائية شاملة. Also, the Saudi Commission has developed a code of ethics for health practitioners. This is not specific for research, but generally as a code of conduct for any professional. And from those codes comes the ethical principle that we utilize in our research. CAST has on its site a booklet or a documentation that distinguish the process of ethical behavior that need to be conducted when we are dealing with research for any living creatures. And recently, there is no research can be conducted without having the principal investigation going through a process of reviewing the process of ethical concept and going through a small exam or a small test to assure that they know the basics around ethics. So what are the major principles that evolves around the ethics? There are mainly 4 principles. Respect of a person, autonomy, and I will speak about this in my future slide. Doing beneficence or doing good for patients and avoiding non-maleficence or doing no harm for our patients. Being just and non-exploitation of subject. So those are the main principles that ethical behavior, either in research or even in practice or in actual life, this is how it evolves. And alhamdulillah, our Islamic regulation all evolves through the same concepts. So when we say respect of the person, we need to maintain their autonomy. So we need to know that this patient is unique, they are free, they have the right and capacity to decide, have a value and dignity, and has a right to be informed, consented, without coercion, and have the right to withdraw whenever they want to. We need to make sure, as a researcher, that we protect our vulnerable persons, like those who have special impaired consciousness, or prisoner patient, or having special society factor or physical factors. So, protection of a study participant is the most important responsibility of a researcher. So we need to balance between doing good or benefit for the patient and doing no harm or non-maleficence. So researchers, when they start their study, need to protect the physical and mental social well-being of each research participant, maximizing the physical and minimizing the physical and social risk, maximizing the possible benefit for the patient, and retaining the community perspective. We have to be, as a researcher, just and non-exploitation of those patients. So this is the concept of being fair in conducting our research. So as a researcher, you must ensure a fair distribution of risk and benefit among your participants. Research should not be done in a community that has no benefit of the results. Conduct equitable recruitment of research participants, not favoring to have patients on active medication because they may benefit more, or they are a close friend, or so on. Provide a special protection for vulnerable groups. So when we speak, especially in research, the research is divided in many steps. Whenever we are considering to start a research, we will start with thinking of a problem. We have a problem and we want to think about it, and we need to solve it through a research. Asking ourselves which question can deal with this research, and how can we design it to get a good answer? How can we collect data and analyze it? In each step of this, we have to include our ethical concept. And the ethical concept starts from the first step, which is going with the problem. So the researcher needs to have a good integrity and competence to apply this research. They have to be responsible and honest. They have to make sure that no maleficent or benefit and autonomy of given to their participant. They have to maintain privacy and confidentiality, dignity, and just to the participant in this research. So when we are thinking of a research problem, we need to ask ourselves, is the significant problem that will benefit others? So this is our responsibility, that assure that we do not misuse our resources or conduct unuseful studies that may affect our patient. Is the researcher competent enough in that field? We have to ask ourselves, is there previous studies published on the same subject exist, and we reviewed them before conducting any such research? By doing no harm and giving benefit, we have to ask ourselves, is it ethical to repeat a study that has been already published? What is the benefit of it? Is it going to confirm a result just as I did that and it's well known? Or is it going to extend the practice or refuting what has been already published? When asking yourself the research question, also you need to balance between non-maleficence and beneficence by asking yourself, does it expose the patient to an unexpected risk or invasion of privacy? You have to be clearly identify the purposes of the study to the participant by giving them their dignity and autonomy. So going on from the research problem to the research question, do we need to have an authority approving this research? Does it need to go through the IRB or ethical approval? Each country has its own regulation, but generally it's go within the same theme. And there is a nice summary published in the Manual of Research of Ethics. You need to look, if you are going to collect the data directly from files retrospectively, or will be going to be an intervention? Is it an observational or experimental or correlation perspective? Is it a pilot study or a full approval process that need to be conducted? All of those can lead you to deciding whether it has to be fully approved by an IRB committee or just it can be initiated without an approval. When you are thinking of the design as well, the ethical principle needs to be involved. So ask yourself when you're designing your study, is your choice of the study design an ethical choice? Is it is it an observational or interventional? So is there a harm or that can be included on the patients? What are the risk-benefit ratio for our patients? You need to assure the competency of your research by assuring that the methodological method that has been used is sound enough. And you have to be honest. Do you have the expertise to do such a study? And there is different type of harms that can be associated with research. It's not only a physical harm. Research may affect the patient's psychological factors, may affect the society, and may affect the economic status of the patient. So we need, whenever we are thinking of a research study, to balance the harm versus the benefit, and is it really needed to go through this study? We need to protect our vulnerable population, including minors, minority groups, mentally incompetent patient, prisoner, patient with contagious diseases. And this is applying our principle of just and dignity and autonomy for our patients. Data collection as well included in those 4 principles. We need to respect the participant associated in the research, and respect the research site that we are conducting our study in, respecting the privacy and confidentiality of our involved subjects. And we need continuous monitoring of the study during the research to assure that there is no wrong practice is going on during our research activity. Informed consent. Informed consent is an important part of the research to assure patient autonomy. It is a process, it's a collaboration for communication decision making, not only signing a paper that I do agree. And this consent needs to be renewed, even if just verbally between each visit or procedures. When you are doing your consent, you need to think about assuring the availability of certain data. You need to be honest with the patient by giving them who are the PIs. How can you contact them if there is something wrong? Who's sponsoring this study? What is the purpose of the research? You cannot place a participant on a study without them knowing why they are participating and what is the benefit for them or for the society from this study. So by doing this, you are maintaining the competency, integrity, and responsibility and honesty principles and ethics. So this should be a continuous process. Another factor that is required in the informed consent is the focus on the participant. Ask yourself, how were they selected? So you need to be just in distribution of participant among your group. And by doing that, you will have a more valid data, assuring the autonomy of the patient by having the consent being voluntary and focusing for the patient that they can withdraw from the study at any time. So there should be no coercion for them to continue this study if they don't want. Including the non-maleficent and confidentiality for the patient, we need to ask what are the benefits and risk and harm. Then this should be clearly written in consent forms in a language that's easily understandable by participants. What is the level and the type of their environment that will be included, and how will you ensure their confidentiality? Where are you going to store their data? The third part of the study is doing the analysis. Again, in the analysis, you need to conduct the ethical part. So how you will protect the autonomy of the participant, the blinding of data so that no one can access the patient information or access individual information. Who will analyze the data, and do you have the experience for doing so? And if you don't know, it's always recommended that you ask experts in the field to help you in this process. How long will you keep the data once analyzed? Where and how will you keep those data? Assuring the confidentiality of patient. Again, research dissemination, which is the final step. It also needs to include ethical issues and honesty, and you can see some of conflicts happening on when authors are trying to publish. And this should be arranged from the beginning of the research. Who will do what and when? Who will be the authorship order? It's very essential to decide it in the beginning. And it's very essential to declare any conflict of interest, either financial or others. Reporting data should be a way of fabrication, falsification, and plagiarism. We can see some of the data written with copying data without citing, paraphrasing without citing, or using other idea without citing. So all of this is considered dishonesty. There have been many recalls of study that have been published in reputable journals, such as New England Journal of Medicine and JAMA, because after they published it, they noticed either the result was not accurate, the patient were not consented, they didn't get an IRB approval. So there is many examples in the literature. So we have to assure ethical practice during our research process. So putting it all together, what makes our research ethical? Emmanuel has summarized this in very nice notes. Your research should be of social and scientific value. It has a scientific validity. fair subject selection, favorable risk-benefit ratio, independent reviews, proper informed consent, respecting for the potential and enrolled subject, collaborative partnerships. So this makes a good research if you can follow all of those points. There is 7 ethical research, now that we have listed all the processes, that we need to make sure that they happen to ensure ethical research. Priorities. So think of your priorities in this research. Did the study address the priority issue? Planning, you have to have good planning. Was the study well designed, optimized the chances of generating a useful, knowledgeable, and protecting the subject? Permission, was the project reviewed and cleared by appropriate institutions? Did the investigator proper informed consent? Also, you need to monitor the performance. Was the study conducted and analyzed and interpreted correctly? Because sometimes you have the data, but the way that it is analyzed can result in false results. Publication, were the results published and disseminated? And we can see this in some of the pharmaceutical company research. Once they have unfavorable results, they tend not to publish it. And this is an area for debate, because you are withdrawing a useful information for the practice. Finally, shifting those results to facts, adding those results to policies and actions. This should be included, and this is a part of our ethical or our responsibility as a researcher. In summary, the ethical principle for research evolve around keeping the respect of the patient autonomy, being beneficent and non-maleficent at the same time. So you have to balance between those two arms, being just and not exploring vulnerable population. And sometimes those ethical problems happen even if you well prepare. They may happen in any part of the research question. This is my last slide. So it may happen in research problem selection, when you are placing your question, when you are placing your design, when you're collecting your data or analyzing it and disseminating it. So make sure that each process you think about those principles and make sure that they are applying to protect your patients to have a valid results. Make sure that the components of informed consent are clear to those patients. Make sure that you give a copy of those informed consent to your participants so that they have the freedom of selection. They can read it carefully, they can read it on their own time, and they can come with their own conclusions. The final thing that I would say, if you are in doubt in any process during your research, ask and consult. There is many references, many societies that can help. Expert opinion also can help you in the field of practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Nada, for this great presentation. Wait, Doctor. Now we'll open the session for questions.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Nada, for such an excellent presentation. Just for the sake of our students, I've noticed in your first slide that you mentioned example, which you didn't, you didn't have time to explain about bad or examples of bad clinical trials or clinical research. So I would like you, for the sake of our students, just to elaborate on that. Thank you very much.
Okay. As I mentioned, there have been some publications that have, if you go to the literature, that have been withdrawn. New England Journal of Medicine has retracted an article because the author of this article had not have obtained a proper consent form, although so there was no honesty in this article to describe the research. They were not honest about the selection process. Their methodology stated that they consent the patient prior to research, and afterward they found out that the patient were not consented. Only after they were included and after their study was analyzed, they obtained a consent. So this gives you doubt about the results and the appropriate of the result. The author of those articles also has mentioned that a certain processes or standard of care has been given to the patient, and unfortunately they did not apply their methodology that was written in their procedure. Another third thing that they have done or was noticed is they conducted this research without getting an IRB approval or institution review board approval for those studies. And they are experimental studies. And while on their submission, they mentioned that they had an IRB approval of the study. And this affected the honesty and integrity of this article and resulted in their withdrawal. There is several examples as such, and there is flaws in different principles, but this is why we have to make sure that we are assuring integrity and honesty when we are writing our results and conclusions. You're welcome. Any other questions? في أحد ثاني؟ نعم. يعطيكم العافية. شكرا.
Our second presenter is Dr. Najla Twajri. She is an assistant professor at Prince Noura bin Abdurrahman College of Pharmacy. She finished her bachelor degree from King Saud University, then she completed her master's degree and PhD from Strathclyde University at Great Britain. Please join me welcoming Dr. Najla to the stage.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good evening, everyone. And I would thank the organizers of this gathering for this opportunity. So today I'm going to talk about, excuse me, can you please? Yeah, good, thank you. So my topic today will be about one of my research interests, which is using gene therapy in treating cancer disease. So to start up, this is a report from the, well, again. Can you please okay, thank you so much. Probably I'll leave it here. So for the last World Health Organization report, for 2018, there was around 18.1 million new incident of cancer. And if we compare this report with the previous published report, which was 5 years before, in 2012, that number escalated insignificantly. So previously it was 14 million incident, which showing actually cancer as a growing health problem. So according as well to the World Health Organization report, these are the most common cancer that are most spread worldwide, starting from lung cancer, breast, colorectal, and prostate cancer. And as you can see in red, this is the mortality rate for each type of that cancer. So it can see that lung cancer, colon rectum cancer, stomach and liver cancer are all has high mortality rate. This has taken us to a point that although with a lot of cancer remedies available, there is still a lack, especially for the patients who are actually diagnosed in the metastasized cases. So when the drug is already in the spreaded outside the infected organ. So for example, we have for lung cancer, there's 80% of the cases when they are first diagnosed, they are already in the metastasized case. Whereas in prostate cancer, it's around 40%. And this has put the patient in the risk between, are they actually treating the disease because they want to full cure the disease, or just to improve their quality of life? That's actually opened the way for a new or future remedies for cancer, and gene therapy is actually one of these. So generally, why gene therapy is actually very promising remedy for cancer, and this is for the fact that cancer itself is considered sort of a genetic disorder. And this is because the cancer cell, when it started or evolved to be genetic, it is actually because of some mutations in the genes, and those genes are actually numerous of tumor suppressor genes. So these genes are supposed to be in normal shape for healthy cells. However, in cancer patients, around 50%, for example, prostate cancer patients especially, 50% of those patients have a mutation in that gene, which means that if the cell is actually noticing any abnormality on it, the tumor suppressor gene cannot function normally and try to overcome the problem, which makes the cancer cells grow and expand. So for that purpose, gene therapy is considered a good choice for treating cancer. However, the main problem with gene therapy is that you need an effective carrier, safe, not costly, effective carrier for these genes to deliver them to the targeted cell. So the aim actually for pharmaceutical industry, I think, and pharmacy research is to find an effective tumor-targeted carriers for these therapeutic genes. So this is just a background about the history of gene therapy. So the first human gene therapy trial conducted in 1970, and it was for treating urocyclic disorder, which is a hereditary disorder. And although this study didn't actually give a beneficial effect, it didn't harm the patients. After a while, the first study on cancer patients established, and it used the strategy of immune modulatory, which means injecting the patients with genes that is supposed to improve the immunity of the patients to start treating cancer. After a while, the first approved United States FDA gene trial was conducted, and it was as well for treating a hereditary disorder. And that was actually a very promising, because it came actually into an improvement in the case of patient. So the case was adenosine deaminase gene deficiency. And what they done is they have two patients, one of them was actually a child, and they injected them with the adenosine virus carrying the gene of interest, monitor the patient, and actually one of the patients have full remedy from this hereditary disorder, whereas the other patient didn't show any benefit from the treatment. However, it didn't show any risk as well. That actually opened the more interest in doing research in gene therapy for actually hereditary disorder and cancer disorders as well. After that, in a while, an incident happened after treating a teenager patient suffering from urocyclic disorder. They injected him with as well adenovirus carrying the eliminated gene from the body. And once the patient was injected, he suffered from multi-organ failure, which led directly to his death. And after studies and investigation, they found that actually the main reason for this patient reaction was the injecting them with the adenovirus. So they developed some sort of immune reaction. That actually highlights the alarm that viruses are not actually an efficient carriers for gene therapy, so they probably, or research need to be more to find more safe carriers. So to sum up, actually, there is some gene therapy clinical trial run a lot. So they say that there is a lot of clinical trials for gene therapy, and most of them, with the all alarming side effects, still using viral vectors. And of course, as you can see here, 60% of these studies are focusing on cancer disease. And this is lead us to the chance that with all this side effect of viral vector, they are still using them and they are still reaching clinical trial. So the point here is that, do we actually need to convert from viral to non-viral vectors? So the question is that viral vectors, they are very good because they are highly specific and they are highly effective. So they transfer the gene in a very efficient way to the targeted cell. And that makes them very favorable, actually, as a carriers. However, these virals are very costly, and they are associated with severe side effects, including immunogenicity. The other alternative that we're trying to develop is the non-viral vectors, using liposomes, polymers in general, cationic or anionic. So these actually carriers, probably they are more safe, they are low in cost. However, they cannot provide the same efficiency in transferring gene to the targeted cells. So in order to try to improve their efficiency as a carrier, there is actually a technique which is the active targeting, which is linking the carrier or the non-viral carrier with a targeting ligand that is well known to be overexpressed in the cancer site. So if this carrier is expressed like in more than like double or triple in the cancer site, that means when the drug is injected, then it will have higher favorability to bind to this cancer cell over the other cells. However, with the active targeting, the nanoparticles or the nanomedicines, they're going to still face some sort of barriers that they can face it after injecting the drug in the extracellular system and inside the cells. And although these barriers cannot be fully overcome, we can decrease their impact. And this is by actually trying to modulate the carrier itself to have a shape, a size, and a charge that can actually pass through these barriers with the minimum impact on it until it reaches to the targeted cell and the nucleus. So for gene therapy in general, there is 3 strategies can be used to fight cancer cells in general. So if you have a cancer cell and you want to destroy it through gene therapy, it's either you're going to deliver the drug, you deliver a gene that is well known to encode cytokines. That cytokines is expected to cause apoptosis, like TNF-alpha, trial, and Fas ligands. So instead of injecting the patient with the cytokines itself, which may create an immune reaction, you're going to carry the DNA, make the carrier targeted to the cancer cell. Once it reaches there, it will start to release the DNA, and the protein itself will start to produce and start causing the cells to die normally through apoptosis. The other pathway is the immunomodulation. Same technique, you're going to carry, put the gene inside a targeted carrier. However, this time it should carry either an antigen for the specific disease, or of course, cytokines that alarm the immune system. So once it is inside the body, the immune system will start to announce or see the cancer cell more clearly and start to fight it. Last technique is the suicide gene therapy, which is actually injecting the patients with some sort of gene encoding some enzymes. So once these enzymes are injected, patient can take a prodrug orally. This enzyme, once it's produced to protein, it should convert the prodrug into an active drug. And because this carrier is supposed to be targeted, it's supposed to be only in cancer cells, which kind of means it's going to destroy the cancer cells without harming the normal cells. So this is take us to the research that I conducted, which is using the apoptosis gene therapy technique. So the idea was to choose or select the plasmid DNA that encode different cytokines that will known to cause an apoptosis to the cells, TNF-alpha and the trial, and deliver them through synthesizing a specific nanoparticles to target, in my case, was prostate cancer. So upon selecting the good carrier, you need to select a carrier that is well known to be safe when it's injected to the patient. So polypropylenamine, for example, is a cationic polymer that has been a lot of studies made on it, and it showed that for its low generations, it's actually some sort of safety profile. So the idea is that for this carrier, because it is a star-shaped carrier and it has a lot of amine groups around it, it can actually interact with the DNA molecule through electrostatic interaction to form some sort of nanomedicine. And to make this nanomedicine more efficient, you need to react it with targeting ligand. In that case, it was lactoferrin, which is an iron-binding protein found to be, or its receptors found to be overexpressed in cancer cells for up to 200 times. So the study went into 3 stages. The first was the synthesis and characterization of the synthesized nanocarrier, followed by in vitro and in vivo evaluation. So the first stage was to make sure that you actually reacted the carrier with the targeting ligand, and then you want to see how efficient this carrier in condensing the DNA. So this is just a few quick steps on the reaction that has been made, and it has been confirmed as well. Followed by the confirmation of the synthesis, we went to see, does the gene is actually condensed efficiently with the polymer or not? So in order to do that, we used some sort of marker gene instead of using the therapeutic gene itself. So what happened is that you need to select different ratios of the drug to the gene and start making nanoparticles and examine their efficiency in condensing the DNA. As you might see, the first 3 ratios, which is 20:1, 10:1, and 5:1, have a high efficiency in condensing the DNA, which means they are or showing that they are promising carriers for the therapeutic DNA. Followed after that, the charge of these particles need to be examined, and their shape need to be investigated as well. So from atomic force microscopy, you can see these spherical particles. They are actually indicating that these nanoparticles are actually in spherical shape, and they are actually in a good size, because the 2 experiments show that their size from 60 to 70, which is considered good actually for injecting by intravenous administration. In addition, their zeta potential, which is the total charge of the nanoparticle, have been examined. And according to the literature, it is supposed to be range in specific value. You don't want it to be high, because high charge will give like non-specific binding to the proteins in the bloodstream. And it's not too low as well. So the value here is actually fit with the recommended in the literature. After that, we jump to the in vitro studies. And in vitro studies, you need to select actually cell lines that actually support the aim of the study. So the aim of the study was to synthesize nanoparticle to target metastasized prostate cancer cases. So in that field, in that regard, we selected 3 different human prostate cancer cell lines. They are metastasized in different regions. PC3, for example, is metastasized in bone. DU145 metastasized in the brain, and LNCAB from the lymph node. And both of those 3 are actually representing different stage of the prostate cancer disease itself. PC3 and DU145, for example, they are in the already late stages of prostate cancer, whereas LNCAB is just after a local advanced stage of the disease. Again, we condensed the marker gene with different ratios to see what is the best ratio that can actually deliver the gene to the cells in high efficiency. So the aim of this study is to make sure that this carrier has the capability to let the nanoparticle inside the cells and afterward make sure that the gene of interest reach the nucleus and start to produce the protein of interest. And as you can see, if we compare it with the positive control, which is as well the nanoparticle, but without targeting, there is a significant difference between them. Another experiment have been conducted, as you can see from the confocal images. The blue spots is actually the nucleus of the cancer cells, whereas the red is the cytoplasm or cell membrane. The green fluorescents are the gene after being, or to make sure that it's already being uptaken by the cells. And this is after 24 hours of a treatment. And if we compare that DAB lactoferrin, which is the targeted particle, with the DAB alone, we can see that the uptake by the targeted particle was 2 to 3-fold higher than the nanoparticle without using active targeting strategy. After that, we went to in vivo studies, and for that we used male mice, biopsy nude. And these mice injected with 2 kinds of cell lines, either PC3 or DU145. And after the tumor have been grown to specific size, we start to treating them intravenously with the formulated nanoparticle, this time with the therapeutic gene, either TNF-alpha or trial. Well, as you can see, the injected mice were injected like every other day. So each mice has 5 doses. And all the mice were kept for 30 days until they need to be sacrificed, either for the growing of the tumor beyond the recommended size, or because of natural death of the tumor, of the mice. So for the first group, which is the targeted nanoparticle, using therapeutic DNA encoding TNF-alpha, as you can see, the tumor started to decrease, like from the second dose. At the end of the study, okay, just 1 minute. This is the last slide. So at the end of the study, it has been demonstrated that the group treated with PC3 actually and TNF-alpha show like 70% regression in the tumor, whereas the other shows 50% regression. This is taken to the last conclusion, which is that actually gene therapy could be a very promising treatment approach for cancer, even if it's used as a monotherapy without other treatments. In addition, the idea of active targeting improved the result more than double to triple, which is actually means if we use the correct targeting ligand, the result could be improved dramatically. Thank you so much, and I'll be happy to answer any question.
Thank you, Dr. Najla, for nice done presentation. Now the session is open for questions.
Yes.
السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم. أول شيء إني أعتذر على كثرة الأسئلة. ثاني حاجة, you mentioned in the first presenter and percentage for Asia more than percentage for in Africa. I know in Africa have contamination and bacteria and more than Asia, and more than Asia. But I talk more than.
Okay.
For etiology in the cancer have bacteria more that cause in the cancer.
Yeah.
What's our problem in Asia more than Africa?
Well, actually, this diagram, it shows you the number of the people, but not the percent. And of course, the people in Asia like have a different the population is much high. If you counter as well China, they have a lot of diagnosed cancer cases.
But you mentioned percent.
The first slide was actually a number.
18 مليون number.
It's a number. It's 18 million new case diagnosed in 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's our problem?
What's the problem?
Yeah.
Well, you cannot actually, from that slide, you cannot tell why the difference is there, because Asia population is much, much higher than Africa. So it's like, if you're going to count the number, you cannot tell what's the percent. You got my point. So we need another slide to show the percentage to the population number, if I got you correct. You got my point? So because Asia people, they have a lot of population, so it's normal for them to have 50% of the cases from Asia. Okay, is that clear? Thank you, no problem.
Thank you.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you for the nice presentation. The effect is really very clear, but I have only one question concerning the other organs. There is any effect, any influence of the therapy on the function of the other organs? And the next question is the rules. What is the reason for the die? Why did the cells or the tumor is die? Is because of apoptosis or necrosis, or what is the reason behind the die of the cells?
Well, if you're going to mention if the treatment is actually affecting other organs, all the treated mice were tolerated the drug normally. There was no change in the weight above the normal range. This is to the extent of the study, and of course there should be more to come in the future. For your next question, I think you mentioned why we use...
Why they die? Why the cells has died? The reason because which process?
The
pathway is induced the die of the cells?
Okay, so the theory said that if you going to inject them with this gene and start to produce, it's supposed to start killing the cell, make the cells kill themselves through apoptosis pathway, extrinsic pathway. So this is the theory or the aim. According to my knowledge, I done an in vitro experiment using ELISA to see how much is actually produced for these cells, and the amount of the protein produced, which is the cytokine, that would cause the apoptosis was high. So we believe this is supposed to be the correct pathway.
Okay. And when you deliver the nanoparticle DNA complex, is it a specific targeting or is not targeted process?
The formulation is actually active targeting, which means specifically targeting prostate cancer, yeah. We used a lactoferrin protein, which is overexpressed in these kind of cells.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
السلام عليكم. أنا بشرى المولد من جامعة المعرفة. I want to ask about what is the potential risk of gene therapy?
Okay. So if we're talking about the first part of the study, we talk about using viruses as carriers, and this is associated with a lot of risks. However, if we're talking about non-viral carriers generally, this kind of research is still at its primary stages. So, so far, for example, some of the particles or some of the carriers probably might be toxic to the animals. So at that stage, we need to use the primary carrier or the polymer that is not well known not to be toxic. Plus, when you synthesize the nanoparticle, when you got the criteria, the size and the zeta potential, it needs to fit in specific criteria, because if it does not, then the particle itself will start to be toxic. For example, the zeta potential, because I synthesized another particles and I got a zeta potential of 40. And it is very clear that if you inject even the cells with that high charge, the cells will die. So it's all about modulating or circling around or making the nanoparticle with a specific criteria.
Thank you, Dr. Najla. And at this point, we'll end our session for this part.
السلام عليكم، مساء الخير. طبعا يسعدني انه اقدم هذه الفقره اللي فيها من الحماس ان شاء الله شيء الكثير. 3 minutes research project competition هي عباره عن منافسه يقوم فيها المتنافسين او المتسابقين بعرض بحوثهم خلال 3 دقائق. طبعا كل متسابق لازم انه يقدم بحثه او يسوي له كفرج بشكل كامل خلال 3 دقائق. طبعا بلغ عدد المتقدمين لهذه المسابقه او المنافسه 25 متسابق من مختلف كليات الصيدلة حول المملكة. كانت فكرة المسابقة أن تكون التصفية عن طريق أو خلال جولتين. الجولة الأولى تمت يومي الثلاثاء والأربعاء بحيث تم تصفية المشتركين إلى الجولة الثانية اللي راح تقام هنا على المسرح، وهم 5 متسابقين اللي تم تأهلهم، وهم حسين الصقور، ريا العثيم، مشاعل الحربي، ورغد العتيبي. هذول 5 هذول ال5 راح يطلعون هنا على الستيج، كل واحد منهم راح يعرض بحثه. طبعا راح يكون لهم تقييم من اللجنة، وأنتم يا الجمهور بعد خليكم شوي أكتف وانتبهوا لكل واحد من هذول ال5 لأن راح يكون لكم دور أنه راح تفوزون واحد من المتسابقين. طبعاً كيف راح يكون دوركم أنتم؟ طبعاً بنهاية المنافسة أو الكومبيتيشن بعد ما يعرضون كل ال5 راح يكون في تصويت أو فوتينج. طبعاً إحنا وزعنا عليكم أوراق قبل شوي فيها الكود اللي هو هذا اللي طالع هنا على الشاشة. طبعاً حالياً لو تفتحونه ما راح يفتح لأن إحنا مقفلين الفوتينج، بس راح أشرح لكم الفكرة. يعني بعد الفقرة راح تسوون سكان لهذا الكود، راح يطلب منكم تدخلون BIN. هذا الBIN هو اللي راح يطلع عندكم، راح تفتح لكم صفحة وتصوتون على مين المتسابق اللي تشوفون انه يستحق الفوز. بعدين راح نعلن النتيجة، وراح يكون في واحد من هذول الوينرز انه يعني انه by your choice، يعني by audience choice، باختياركم انتم راح يكون الفائز الثالث. وبس هذه هي الفقرة باختصار، والحين راح نبدأ مع المتسابقين.
المتسابق الأول حسين الصقور.
Bismillah. Hello everyone. Today I am here to present the presentation or to present a study, and before I begin and before the judges begin timing, I'd love to thank Al Qasim University, especially College of Pharmacy in Al Qasim University, for the awesome organization of this symposium. The presentation which I'm going to present today, is a study under the name of healthcare professionals, knowledge, attitude, practice regarding to pediatric asthma and their adherence to its guidelines. The aim of this study, or the main objective of this study, is to evaluate or to assess the knowledge and the attitude and the practice regarding to pediatric asthma of healthcare professionals and their adherence to these guidelines. There is an additive aim of this study is also to take the opinion of healthcare professionals about establishing an asthma care center in Najran region. The methods that we've gone through in this study was classified in two phases. The first phase was semi-structured interview with the healthcare professionals, and we focused on one hospital in Najran, which is Maternity and Children Hospital in Najran. We choose 4 doctors, 3 nurses, and 3 pharmacists to ask them in the following yields. The first question was about the asthma medication, and do you follow the asthma guidelines? And if you don't follow them, what are the barriers that you are facing in not following the asthma guidelines, while it's an important thing? This second section, which was the most important section, was the online surveys that we've distributed, 500 online surveys overall the healthcare professionals in many hospitals and primary care centers in Najran region. And the questions was, the first section was demographic section, where do you work, what's the gender, and years of experience, of course. Then we asked about the guidelines or the asthma guidelines, if they are following the asthma guidelines. If yes, which one of the national asthma guidelines do you follow? And if no, what are the barriers that you are going to face in not following the asthma guidelines? We asked also about their opinion. To what extent do you believe that there is a specific gene in Najran or in Saudi Arabia causes the asthma? Then we end with the recommendation of them and their feedbacks. So the results that I will conclude with was the first result that we've got. 50% of the respondents did not follow the asthma guideline in their treatment. Okay. The second result was the main barrier that they faced, okay, and their not following the asthma guideline was the lack of awareness toward these asthma guidelines. The main trigger that causes asthma in Najran was dust and air pollution. And we asked a question about, do you think that male gender in pediatric patient is more prevalent to asthma and wheezing than female gender? And they said yes, the male gender is the most prevalent to get asthma or wheezing in Saudi Arabia. And we conclude with their opinion about establishing an asthma care center in Najran region. And they said, yes, it's really important to have an asthma care center in Najran region. And finally, recommends is to provide lectures, workshops for the healthcare professionals to increase the awareness. And finally, to educate the parents of the children. Parents.
المتسابقة الثانية ريا العثيم.
Assalamu alaikum. Imagine the world without children. Infertility is a real threat to human race. With 18% of couples in Saudi Arabia are considered infertile. It's medically defined as no achievement of pregnancy after 1 year of trying. It's usually treated with medications or assisted reproductive technology like intrauterine insemination or in vitro fertilization. We as healthcare provider, we need to understand the community's perspective of infertility, their knowledge, their attitude, their beliefs, to correct misconceptions and to reinforce information, encourage couples to seek medical treatment. We published a public survey and 1,300 participants volunteered. Only 11% of them were males, which actually a concern since it may correlate to the cultural stigma of infertility. In terms of knowledge, the difference of knowledge between different educational groups was statistically significant. The knowledge was higher with those with a doctorate degree. And the gaps of knowledge were mostly in the effectiveness and safety of herbal medications in fertility treatment, and the effectiveness of assisted reproductive technology. Almost 40% of participants stated they're seeking medical intervention or medical help for their fertility problems. With these rates higher, with those more than 5 years of marriage and less than 10 years of marriage, they're more willing for medical intervention, medical help. We asked participants for their consideration of assisted reproductive technology as a treatment for them. Almost 40% of participants stated they're not considered a treatment for 3 factors. The first factor was religious belief. 15% believe that Islam prohibits them from considering this technology, and 16% of them due to the financial burdens that comes with it, and almost 60% due to unspecified personal reasons. We need more and further research in this field to correct the myths about infertility, and to encourage couple and educate couple and about the community as a whole. Thank you.
المتسابقة الثالثة ابتهال العمار.
Hello. Yeah. Good afternoon. Start. My research was about knowledge and perception of healthcare provider regarding new medication group, which are sodium glucose cotransporter 2 inhibitor for treating type 2 diabetes. This group acts by inhibit sodium glucose cotransporter 2 in the proximal tube of the kidney and lead to reduced glucose reabsorption and increase its excretion in the urine. So the concern was because the study was conducted on this medication had 7 cases of toy amputation as the patient vasculature not assessed properly before starting taking this medication. And in our research, we detect perception and knowledge of physician toward this group of medication, and if they know what type of tests they have to do and what type of counseling they have to provide. And we found, alhamdulillah, that consultants who have a privilege to prescribe this medication were fully aware about this precaution and other side effects, such as urinary tract infection, female genital infection, acute kidney injury, and hypotension due to the hypovolemia. And they usually check for their patient if they are candidate to take this medication safely. And this research made me very impressive about our consultant and their knowledge before start treating patients regarding any medication they want to prescribe. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ragad Al-Ataybi. Thank you. So, as we know, diabetes is one of the fastest growing chronic diseases worldwide. And to manage this disease, we need the cooperation between doctors, nurses, and pharmacists. Now, in this image, you might ask, why did I display this image? And it represents the issue that we have. For example, here we have the diabetic patient. He's offering alternative drug, and he is not sure. He trusts doctor more. Now, here's the thing. Diabetic patients have a less accessibility to community pharmacy. And this can be because that patients are not aware enough of community pharmacy services, or challenges and limitations that limits the pharmacist's role towards the diabetic patient, or the challenges that limits the diabetic patient itself, or anything that in my research, I'm trying to figure out what these things could be. Now, some of you might ask, why do you bother yourself, Ragad? What's the benefit of your research? Well, since a pharmacist is not engaged more widely in diabetic patient care, that means that diabetic patient care will not, that means that diabetic patient will not get a better treatment and will not improve his condition, and it will not improve their quality of life. Now, this is a big issue. Now, for the pharmacist, it may let them improve their quality, their drug adherence, and their drug adherence, and reduce the medical errors. And for the doctors, it will reduce the workload on them. And That's my 3-minute thesis. Thank you so much.
المتسابقة الرابعة مشاعل الحربي أو الخامسة.
Assalamu alaikum. Patient health management is our goal as a pharmacist. So, do you want to treat your patient efficiently, effectively, safely, with low cost? You need to think about evidence-based pharmacy practicing. What is the evidence-based pharmacy practicing? In 2000, Dr. David defined the evidence-based pharmacy as an integration of evidence research with a clinical expertise and patient value. Okay. In our cross-section survey study, we asked a question. What is the attitude of pharmacists toward evidence-based pharmacy in Qasim region? Most of them was showing a negative attitude toward practicing evidence-based pharmacy. Also, they are agree that evidence-based pharmacy improve the patient care and daily management. It's strange. And that result was guiding us to other important questions. What is the barrier to practicing evidence-based pharmacy among our pharmacists? Lack of time and lack of evidence-based resource was the most barrier obstruct the pharmacists toward practicing evidence-based. Also, the awareness of evidence-based pharmacy terms and databases was another barrier. And we find a positive relationship between the degree of the pharmacist's academic degree and the awareness of evidence-based pharmacy terms and databases. That means the pharmacists with the highest degree have the highest awareness. That means we need education. We need a further education. Also, we need a motivation. We recommend a further education and motivation in our institution and in our pharmacists to improve the practicing of evidence-based and so improve the patient management. Thank you.
بطلب من المتسابقين يجون هنا على الستيج كلهم الخمسة. يلا نطلب من المتسابقين يعرفون بأنفسهم.
Hello again, this is Hussein Mohammed Al-Sugur.
مشاع الحربي. تهال خليفة العمار.
افتح مفتوحة.
رغد إبراهيم العتيبي.
ريا العثيم.
طبعا الحين راح أفتح لكم التصويت. طبعا ممكن لاحظتوا لما تدخلون البي اي ان انه ممكن ما افتح لكم صفحة للحين. ممكن تطلع لكم صفحة سوداء حاليا لحد ما افتح البحث من التصويت من عندي. مو موجودة شبكتك. بالله شوف جوالي هنا جوا بفتح شبكة. طبعا الحين راح افتح التصويت وراح يطلع عندكم اسماء المتشاركين، فاختاروا اللي تشوفونه انه يستحق الفوز. بدأ التصويت عندكم، ترى مدة دقيقة يعني وبيقفل، فيعني إلا يفتح دخل البي اي ان راح يفتح معكم التصويت. اختاروا المتسابق. وخر شوي عن الشاشة عشان تشوف الناس البي اي ان. الحين انتهى التصويت، دقائق بس ونعلن الفائز. خلاص الحين تقدرون ترجعوا للناس. لا خليكم بس انه بالنص عادي، يعني ما صرنا نستخدم البي اي ما نحتاج. لا شوي. خلاص لحظة يلا افتح الشاشة. وين الضوء؟ اي اي خلاص. معلق الجهاز. دروا الناس يعني. ها بس ما مشيوا ذي الصفحة معلق. ها معلق هو مش مقفلت هذه الصفحة. خليه يرجع مرة ثانية. أنا بطلع النتيجة. ايش؟ شو قلت؟ أشيل. طبعا الحين بسم الله الوينر باي ذا اودينس تشويس حسين.
طيب الآن النتائج اللي طلعت من تصويت اللجنة. المركز الثاني مشاعل الحربي. طبعا من كلية الصيدلة بجامعة القصيم المقر الرئيسي. المركز الأول تصويت اللجنة حسين الصقور من جامعة نجران.
السلام عليكم. أولا أشكركم جميعا على التصويت، وأشكر اللجنة، وقبل الشكر أشكر جامعة القصيم على هذا التنظيم الجميل جدا والترحيب الكبير اللي استقبلناه منهم. الشيء الثاني، إذا كان في إبداع برأيكم شفتوه على المسرح كان بعد الله سبحانه وبعد زملاء اللي جايين معي من نجران، دكتور سامر، عبد الله العامري، محمد القرني، وأيضا عبد الله الحارثي. الشيء الأخير أشكر الدكتور حمد المخلص اللي وقف معي وكان معي خطوة بخطوة، وأشكركم جامعة القصيم مرة أخرى.
طيب، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. قبل أبدأ بس أحب أشكر باقي المتسابقين في المسابقة. أعتقد أنها فعلا تحتاج، يعني بغض النظر عن النتائج، فعلا مجرد المشاركة في مسابقة من هذا النوع أعتقد أنها تعبر عن شخصية قوية للمتسابق وجرأة وثقة في النفس. شكرا طبعا شكرا لكل اللي اشتركوا في هالمسابقة. طبعا أبارك حسن صح؟ وين حسين سكور، مبروك مشاعل الحربي. شكرا جزيلا لباقي المتسابقات. أعتقد الأسماء اللي شاركوا ريا العثيم ريا العثيم، ابتهال العمار، ورغد العتيبي. شكرا جزيلا الحقيقة. يعني أعتقد مجرد الوقوف على ستيج وأمام الجمهور والحديث لو ل3 دقائق هي بحد ذاته أعتقد دلالة كبيرة على تميزهم. قبل بس عندنا تكريم لبعض المنظمين وإعلان بعض الجوائز الآن، لكن بس اسمحوا لي ما راح أخذ من وقتكم الكثير. شكرا جزيلا لكل من سجل وحضر وشارك وتفاعل. الحقيقة الجميع كان يثني يمكن على جهود اللجنة المنظمة. في حقيقة الأمر مهما كانت جهود اللجنة المنظمة بدون الحضور والتفاعل اللي موجود واللي شفناه لا يعني هذا شيء. شكرا لكل من حضر، طلابنا وطالباتنا، وخصوصا اللي أتوا من خارج منطقة القصيم. ونعيدكم بإذن الله كما تعودنا سابقا، كلية الصيدلة في جامعة القصيم ستكون مفتوحة للجميع في جميع نشاطاتها وجميع فعالياتها، ونعدكم بالمزيد والأميز والأفضل دائما بإذن الله تعالى. أيضا أنا شكرتهم في كلمة الافتتاح أمس، وأرجع أشكرهم مرة ثانية اللجان المنظمة من أعضاء هيئة التدريس، الدكتور أيضا ياسر المقبل وكيل الكلية وأعضاء هيئة التدريس واللجنة العلمية واللجنة المنظمة، وفوق هذا كله الطلاب والطالبات اللي كان هذا التنظيم بجهد كامل منهم. شكرا جزيلا لهم حقيقة، يعني من أيام ومن أسابيع وهم يعملون ليل نهار من أجل أن نخرج إن شاء الله بهذا القدر وبهذا المستوى من النجاح والتميز. لأن جامعة القصيم طبعا احنا كلياتنا يعني وعدناكم، يمكن سويناها من قبل 3 فعاليات. في كل فعالية تنتهي احنا نعلن عن الفعالية القادمة. في ندوة قبل 3 أشهر كانت اللي هو الانترنشيب سيمبوزيوم، وأيضا بمشاركة طلاب وطالبات من كل كليات المملكة. فتح باب المشاركة في ذلك الوقت للجميع. وقتها أعلنا في الختام عن الريسيرش سيمبوزيوم هذا، والآن إن شاء الله نعلن عن الفارماكوثيرابي كورس اللي حيكون إن شاء الله بعد 3 أسابيع تقريبا راح يعلن عنه. ستكون الإعلانات عبر الحساب الخاص لفعاليات الكلية على تويتر إن شاء الله. أيضا سيكون مفتوح للجميع. سيصاحب الفارماكوثيرابي كورس أيضا كورس خاص لاختبار الSBLE. طبعا هذا احتمال كبير حيكون يعني خاص للطلاب وطالبات الكلية. شكرا لكم مرة ثانية، وإن شاء الله نشوفكم يعني أتمنى أنه تتفاعلون معنا دائما، لأنه هذا الشيء اللي يشجعنا.
طيب، تكريم المنظمين. طالب ربيعان الماضي. خزامة محيسني. العنود الغفيلي. لميس الدعيجي. أثير الخربوش. نوف القزلان. مرام العازمي. نبي ناخذ بريك ان شاء الله 10 دقائق، وبعد كذا راح نرجع نعلن عن النتائج المسابقات البحثيه الباقيه. 10 دقائق ان شاء الله وتظهر النتائج باذن الله.